The morning had started normally enough. I'd driven across town with my 8-year-old son to attend my nephew's birthday party at my sister's house. The sprawling 2-story home sat in one of those neighborhoods where every lawn looked professionally maintained and every driveway held at least 2 expensive cars. My son had been excited all week. He'd used his allowance to buy a remote control car for his cousin, wrapping it carefully with tape applied in overlapping strips. The gift sat on his lap during the entire drive, his small hands protectively covering the bright blue paper. We parked on the street because the driveway was already full. My brother's SUV, my parents' sedan, and my sister's husband's truck took up every available space. I held my son's hand as we walked up the pristine sidewalk, noticing how he tried to step over the cracks. My sister answered the door wearing a cream-colored sweater that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her smile was bright and welcoming, until her eyes dropped to my son's sneakers. They were new, purchased just last week from a discount store, but they weren't the brand-name shoes my nephew wore. Come in, she said, stepping aside. Everyone's in the backyard. The house smelled like expensive candles and fresh paint. We walked through the living room where furniture I recognized from a high-end catalog sat arranged in perfect symmetry. Family photos lined the walls. Professional shots taken at studios with coordinated outfits and artificial backgrounds. In the backyard, colorful decorations hung from every available surface. A bounce house dominated one corner of the lawn. Tables covered with themed tablecloths held more food than 20 people could eat. My nephew ran past us, followed by 3 other children, all wearing matching party hats. My son's grip on my hand tightened slightly. He wasn't used to parties like this. Our birthday celebrations involved homemade cake and games in our small living room, maybe a trip to the park if the weather cooperated. "Hey buddy," my brother called out, walking over with a beer in hand. He ruffled my son's hair. "Ready to jump in that bounce house?" My son nodded, his shyness evident in the way he pressed closer to my leg. "Go ahead," I encouraged him. "Have fun." He hesitated for another moment before running off to join the other children, the wrapped gift still clutched in his hands. I made my way to where my parents sat at one of the tables. Dad was eating a plate of barbecue and Mom was watching the children with that expression grandparents get when all their grandchildren are in one place. "Glad you could make it," Dad said. "Traffic okay?" "Fine. Took the back roads." My sister appeared beside the table, holding a tray of drinks. "I wasn't sure you'd come. It's such a long drive from your place." There was something in her tone, a subtle emphasis on your place, that made my shoulders tense. "It's not that far," I replied evenly. "Well, some people don't mind the commute from those apartment complexes." She set the tray down with a slight clatter. "Michael and I couldn't imagine raising kids without a yard. Children need space to grow, don't you think?" Mom's expression shifted slightly, a warning look my sister either didn't notice or chose to ignore. "Different situations work for different people," I said, keeping my voice neutral. My sister's husband joined us, carrying a platter of burgers fresh from the grill. "Who wants to eat?" he announced cheerfully, oblivious to the tension. The next hour passed in a blur of forced smiles and careful conversation. I watched my son play with the other children, noticing how he held back slightly, not quite fitting into their easy camaraderie. They talked about video games he didn't have and vacation destinations he'd never visited. When it came time for cake, everyone gathered around the large patio table. My nephew sat at the head, a crown perched on his head, grinning at the attention. The cake was a professional creation. 3 tiers decorated with intricate designs that must have cost a fortune. My son stood near the edge of the group, still holding his wrapped gift. He'd been carrying it around for the past hour, waiting for the right moment to present it. My sister began organizing the gift opening, creating a designated area where my nephew could sit and display each present for photos. She assigned my brother's wife to write down who gave what, presumably for thank you notes later. One by one the gifts were opened. Electronics. Expensive toys. Gift cards to stores I rarely shopped at. Each present was met with enthusiastic reactions and immediate photo documentation. My son finally stepped forward when there were only a few gifts left, holding out his carefully wrapped package. The blue paper suddenly looked cheap under the afternoon sun, the tape visible and excessive. My nephew tore into it with the same enthusiasm he'd shown for all the others. The remote control car tumbled out, modest compared to the other toys, but chosen with genuine care. Cool, thanks, my nephew said, setting it aside to reach for the next present. My sister glanced at the car, then at my son, then at me. Something flickered across her face, an expression I'd seen before but never quite this pronounced. She walked over to where my son stood, her cream sweater bright against the darkening sky. The party was winding down and some families had already started gathering their things. That's when she looked down at my son and delivered the line that would change everything. You know, she said, her voice carrying across the patio, real family members don't live in apartments. The conversation around us died. My brother stopped mid-sentence. Mom's hand froze holding a paper plate. Dad's expression darkened. My son looked up at her, confusion evident on his young face. Then he looked down at his new shoes, the ones I'd been so proud to buy him, and I watched something shift in his eyes. My sister smirked, satisfied with whatever point she thought she'd made. The anger that rose in my chest was white-hot and immediate. For 3 years I kept quiet. For 3 years I'd maintained the facade, playing the role of the struggling younger brother while making sure my sister never missed a mortgage payment. When their housing market had crashed and their adjustable-rate mortgage had ballooned to unmanageable levels, when the bank had started foreclosure proceedings, who had they called? Not our parents, already retired on a fixed income. Not our brother, who had his own family expenses. They called me. Late at night, my sister's voice shaking with tears, begging for help. Just until they got back on their feet, she'd promised. Just until Michael's commission checks started coming in regularly again. Just temporary. I'd refinanced my own modest condo. I'd taken on extra consulting projects. I'd worked weekends and holidays, all while maintaining the illusion that I was the family member who couldn't quite get ahead. Every month for 36 months I'd transferred money to their mortgage company, not to them directly because I knew that would complicate things, but straight to the bank. They'd made the payments in their name, preserving their credit, protecting their home and keeping up appearances. And now she stood in that home, in the backyard I'd helped her keep, mocking my son for living in an apartment. I walked over slowly, watching her smirk widen as I approached. She thought I was going to slink away embarrassed. She thought she'd won whatever competition existed only in her mind. My son still hadn't moved, his small hand touching his new shoes as if to verify they were real, as if to understand what made them insufficient. I stopped directly in front of my sister, close enough that only she, my son, and my parents could hear clearly. Real family members, I said quietly, don't need their brother paying their mortgage. Her smirk vanished. The color drained from her face so quickly I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. What? She whispered. You heard me. My brother-in-law approached, sensing something had shifted. What's going on? My sister's mouth opened and closed without sound. She looked at Mom, at Dad, searching for denial or rescue. Mom's face held a mixture of shock and something else. Disappointment maybe, or recognition that something irreparable had just broken. Please, Mom whispered, reaching out a hand. Please, not here. I smiled then, not with warmth but with the release of 3 years of careful silence. Not here. I repeated. Where then, Mom? When would be a good time to mention that I've been paying $3,200 every month to keep this house out of foreclosure? Should I have brought it up during Christmas dinner? Or maybe at Easter brunch? My brother moved closer, his expression shifting from confusion to understanding. You've been paying their mortgage? For 3 years, I confirmed. Since their rate adjusted and they couldn't make the payments anymore. My sister finally found her voice. You said you wouldn't tell anyone. You promised. That was before you decided to humiliate my son at a birthday party. My brother-in-law's face had gone red. Whether from embarrassment or anger I couldn't tell. We were going to pay you back. We just needed time to stabilize. 36 months, I said. That's $115,000. When exactly were you planning to stabilize? The number hung in the air, concrete and undeniable. Other family members had stopped pretending not to listen. The children still played, oblivious, but every adult on that patio was watching us now. My sister's eyes filled with tears, but they were angry tears, not sorry ones. You can't just announce that in front of everyone. You're destroying us. I'm destroying you? The laugh that escaped me was sharp. You just told my son he's not real family because we live in an apartment. An apartment I live in because I emptied my savings to keep your house. Dad stood up from his chair, his expression harder than I'd seen in years. Is this true? You've been paying their mortgage for 3 years. Every month. Direct deposit to the mortgage company. He turned to my sister. You told us you'd worked it out with the bank. You said they'd modified your loan. She couldn't meet his eyes. We did work it out. We just needed help making the payments. Help. Dad's voice rose slightly. That's not help. That's him paying for your house while you pretend everything's fine. We were going to pay him back, my brother-in-law repeated, but the words sounded hollow even to him. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw someone I barely recognized. When you called me 3 years ago crying, begging for help, I said yes because you're my sister. I said yes because family helps family. I said yes even though it meant I couldn't buy a house of my own, couldn't save for my son's education, couldn't do a lot of things. We didn't ask you to sacrifice everything, she said, her voice breaking. No, you just asked me to save your house. And then you forgot I did it. You forgot it so completely that you could stand here in a home I'm paying for and mock my son for where we live. Mom was crying now, silent tears she wiped away with trembling hands. My brother stood with his arms crossed, looking at my sister with an expression I'd never seen him wear before. The party was effectively over. Families were gathering their children, making excuses about early mornings and long drives. My nephew sat abandoned among his pile of gifts, the remote control car visible near the bottom. I took my son's hand. We're leaving. Wait, my sister said, reaching out. We need to talk about this. No, we really don't. You made your position clear. Real family members don't live in apartments. Well, real family members also don't pretend to own houses their brother is paying for. What are you saying? Her voice had gone small, frightened. I pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. With a few taps, I canceled the automatic transfer I'd set up 36 months ago. I'm saying I'm done. The next mortgage payment is all yours. The color that had drained from her face earlier didn't return. You can't. We can't afford it without you. The payment is $4,000. Then I guess you'll need to figure something out. Sell the house, refinance again, get second jobs. Not my problem anymore. My brother-in-law took a step toward me. Be reasonable. We have a family. We have kids. So do I said, squeezing my son's hand. And he just learned that his aunt thinks he's not real family because of where we live. That's worth more to me than your mortgage. I started walking toward the gate, my son keeping pace beside me. Behind us, voices rose in argument. My sister was crying loudly now. My brother-in-law was angry. Dad was demanding answers. Mom was trying to calm everyone down. We reached my car and I helped my son into his seat. His face was thoughtful, processing everything he'd heard. Dad? He said as I started the engine. Yeah, buddy. Are we real family? I looked at him in the rearview mirror, at his honest eyes and his discount store shoes, and felt my heart break a little. We're the realest family there is, I said. As we drove away, I saw my sister standing in her driveway, her cream-colored sweater perfect against the backdrop of her 2-story home. The home I'd been paying for. The home she'd have to figure out how to keep without my help. My phone started ringing before we reached the main road. Mom's name flashed on the screen. Then Dad's. Then my brother's. I let them all go to voicemail. The truth wasn't just starting. The truth had been there all along, waiting for someone to speak it out loud. I'd finally found the courage to do it, prompted by the sight of my son touching his new shoes and wondering what made him insufficient. Real family members don't need their brother paying their mortgage. But real family members also don't make children feel less than for circumstances beyond their control. I'd learned that lesson today, and it had cost me $115,000 to figure it out. My brother Marcus looked at my daughter Emma and said those words with a smirk on his face. The words hung in the air like poison. Emma's small hand tightened around mine. She had been so excited about spending the weekend at the beach, talking about building sandcastles for weeks. She'd even packed her favorite bucket and shovel days in advance, asking me every morning if it was time to go yet. Your child has no place at the beach house, Marcus repeated, louder this time, making sure everyone in the room could hear him clearly. He giggled, that same irritating sound he'd made since we were kids when he thought he'd won something. This is a family vacation. Real family only. Emma went completely silent. Her big brown eyes started to water, but she tried to hold it back. She looked up at me, confused about why her uncle would say something so cruel. My mother stood in the kitchen doorway, pretending to be busy with her phone. My sister Jennifer sat on the couch, suddenly very interested in her wine glass. Marcus's wife nodded in agreement, adding fuel to the fire. She's adopted, right? Marcus continued. So technically she's not really part of the bloodline. The beach house has always been for blood relatives only. I felt Emma's hand trembling in mine. She was trying so hard not to cry in front of everyone. That's when something inside me shifted. Not anger. Just clarity. No beach house then, I said calmly. I'll cancel everything. Marcus froze mid-laugh. His smile got stuck on his face like someone had pressed pause. My mother's head snapped up from her phone. Are you serious? She whispered. I smiled and didn't say anything. I pulled out my phone and started typing. Wait, what do you mean cancel? Jennifer finally spoke up, her wine glass forgotten. The reservations, I said simply. The whole weekend. Consider it cancelled. Marcus recovered his composure and laughed again, but it sounded forced this time. You can't cancel our family vacation. Stop being dramatic. Watch me, I said. I picked up Emma and headed toward the door. Hold on, my mother called out. Let's not be hasty. Marcus was just joking around. It didn't sound like a joke to Emma, I said. And I don't think children should be the target of adult cruelty, joke or not. Marcus rolled his eyes. Oh please. You're really going to make a scene because I stated a fact? The beach house belongs to the family. Real family. You're absolutely right, I agreed. It does belong to family. Something in my tone made Jennifer sit up straighter. Marcus's wife whispered something to him, but he brushed her off. So you understand then, Marcus said. The beach house is for us. You can still come, obviously. Just maybe find somewhere else for the kid to stay during our vacation. Emma buried her face in my shoulder. I could feel her tears soaking through my shirt. I understand perfectly, I said. I'll make the calls right now. My mother stepped closer. Sweetheart, maybe we should all calm down and discuss this like adults. There's nothing to discuss, Mom. Marcus made his position clear. Emma isn't welcome. So nobody's welcome. That's not what he meant, Jennifer tried to mediate. He just thinks maybe Emma would be more comfortable somewhere with other kids. You know how boring the beach house can be for children. She seemed pretty excited about it until 5 minutes ago, I said. Marcus checked his watch dramatically. Look, I don't have time for this emotional manipulation. We're supposed to leave tomorrow morning. I've already taken time off work. The kids are packed. You're not going to ruin this family vacation because your feelings got hurt. My feelings are fine, I said. But the vacation is definitely cancelled. You can't just cancel it, Marcus insisted. Who do you think you are? I didn't answer. Instead, I sent the first message on my phone. Within 30 seconds, my phone rang. I answered it on speaker. Ms. Peterson, this is Thomas from Coastal Property Management, the voice said. I just received your message about the reservation. You want to cancel the entire booking for this weekend. That's correct, Thomas, I said calmly. Cancel the entire booking effective immediately. All access codes should be deactivated immediately. Tonight, actually. The room went very quiet. Marcus's mouth opened slightly. Jennifer set down her wine glass with a shaky hand. But ma'am, your family has been planning this trip for months, Thomas said, his voice concerned. The property has been blocked off specifically for your guests. Are you absolutely certain about this decision? Completely sure. Deactivate all access codes by tonight. Nobody enters the property this weekend. Understood. I'll process the cancellation right away. The security system will be updated within the hour. I hung up. Marcus stared at me. What was that? The cancellation you didn't think I could make, I said. Wait, Jennifer said slowly. Coastal Property Management. That's the company that manages the beach house. Yes, I confirmed. My mother's face had gone pale. How do you have their number? I have all their numbers, Mom. Direct lines, actually. Marcus shook his head. This doesn't make any sense. Are you saying you called the management company? So what? They don't take orders from you. Actually, they do, I said. They take orders exclusively from me. The silence in the room was profound. What are you talking about? Marcus demanded. I shifted Emma to my other hip. She had stopped crying and was watching the adults with confused interest. The beach house, I said simply. I own it. Jennifer's wine glass slipped from her hand, splashing red wine across the cream carpet. Nobody moved to clean it up. That's impossible, Marcus said. Grandpa left the beach house to all of us. It's been in the family for 40 years. Grandpa left the beach house to me, I corrected. Specifically, 10 years ago. My mother sank into the nearest chair. But we've been using it every summer. We thought it was still in the family trust. It is in the family, I said. My family. I've been letting everyone use it because I thought we were all family. Apparently, I was wrong about who counts as family. Marcus's face turned an interesting shade of red. You're lying. Grandpa would never leave the entire property to just one person. He left it to the grandchild who actually visited him every week for the last 5 years of his life, I said. The one who drove him to doctor's appointments, organized his medications and made sure he wasn't lonely. That was me, Marcus. You visited him twice in those 5 years. This is insane, Jennifer said. Why didn't you tell us? I did tell you. 10 years ago, right after Grandpa's will was read. You said congratulations and then asked if you could still use the house for your anniversary. I said yes. I've been saying yes ever since. My phone buzzed with a confirmation text from Thomas. The cancellation was complete. So every summer, Marcus said slowly, every holiday weekend, every family gathering at the beach house, you owned it? Every single one, I confirmed. And you never mentioned it, he said. I mentioned it once. You forgot. Everyone forgot. Because it didn't matter to you who owned it as long as you had access. Marcus's wife grabbed her purse. We should go. Don't bother, I said. I'm leaving. Emma and I have a beach house to visit. Alone. Now wait just a minute, my mother said. Let's not be rash. Marcus made a mistake. He didn't mean what he said. He meant every word, Mom. And that's fine. He's entitled to his opinion about who counts as real family. But he's not entitled to my property. Jennifer stood up. Come on, this is crazy. You're going to cut off the entire family because Marcus said something stupid. I'm not cutting off anyone, I said. I'm simply withdrawing an invitation that was made very clear it wasn't wanted. Marcus said Emma has no place at the beach house. He was very specific about bloodlines and real family. I'm just honoring his wishes. By banning all of us? Jennifer demanded. By taking my daughter somewhere she's actually welcome, I said. You're all welcome to find your own beach house. I hear there are some nice rentals available. Expensive, especially this close to summer, but available. Marcus finally found his voice again. You can't do this over one comment. Watch me, I said. I headed to the door with Emma. Wait, my mother called. Please. Let's talk about this. I turned back. There's nothing to talk about, Mom. For 10 years I've shared my property with this family free of charge. I never asked for maintenance contributions, never charged for utilities, never limited your access. The only thing I ever asked was that we treat each other with respect and kindness. We do, my mother protested. Really? Because your son just told my daughter she doesn't belong in our family in front of everyone. And nobody said a word to defend her. Nobody told him he was wrong. You all just sat there. The truth of that statement hung in the air. Emma whispered in my ear, Can we still go to the beach, Mommy? Absolutely, baby, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. We're going right now. Just us. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Thomas. Security codes updated. New codes sent to your private email. Have a wonderful weekend, Miss Peterson. The codes are changed, I announced. If anyone shows up at the beach house this weekend, the police will be called for trespassing. Thomas is very good at his job. Marcus slumped onto the couch, his earlier confidence completely gone. This is unbelievable. What's unbelievable is that you thought you could insult a 6-year-old child and still expect to enjoy her mother's property, I said. Jennifer's phone rang. She looked at the screen and then at me with wide eyes. It's my husband. He just got to the beach house with the kids. The codes aren't working. They won't work, I confirmed. Not this weekend. Not next weekend. Not until I decide otherwise. You're really doing this, my mother said softly. I really am, I agreed. Emma and I are going to have a wonderful weekend at the beach. Building sandcastles, collecting shells, maybe having ice cream for breakfast. You know, enjoying family time. I opened the door. Emma waved shyly at everyone over my shoulder. Nobody waved back. They were all too shocked. One more thing, I said before leaving. The beach house isn't just for this weekend. It's mine year-round. Every holiday, every summer, every long weekend. I've been generous with access because I loved having family there. Past tense. Marcus stood up. How long are you going to punish us for this? I'm not punishing anyone, I said. I'm just being clear about boundaries. Emma isn't welcome? Fine. Then nobody's welcome. It's really that simple. So we're just banned forever? Jennifer asked. Forever is a long time, I said. Let's start with indefinitely and see how that goes. I closed the door behind me and walked to my car with Emma. She was quiet until we were buckled in. Mommy, do you really own the beach house? She asked. I really do, sweetheart. And Uncle Marcus didn't know? He forgot. A lot of people forgot. Are they mad at us? They're not mad at you, baby. They're mad at themselves. As we drove away, my phone started buzzing with calls and texts. Marcus, Jennifer, my mother, even my father, who'd been conveniently absent during the whole scene. I let them all go to voicemail. Emma looked out the window at the passing scenery. Are we still going to the beach house? We absolutely are, I promised. Just us. Just us. Is that okay? She thought about it for a moment, then smiled. That sounds perfect, Mommy. And it was. We spent the entire weekend at the beach house. Emma built the biggest sandcastle she'd ever made. We had ice cream for breakfast on Saturday. We watched the sunset from the deck both nights. We collected so many shells that we had to find an extra bag for the drive home. My phone kept buzzing the entire weekend. Messages from Marcus apologizing, texts from Jennifer trying to mediate, voicemails from my mother asking me to reconsider. Even Marcus's wife sent a long message about family forgiveness. I responded to none of them. On Sunday night, as I tucked Emma into bed in one of the beach house bedrooms, she looked up at me with sleepy eyes. This was the best weekend ever, she said. It really was, I agreed. Are we real family, Mommy? My heart broke a little. We are the realest family there is, baby. Don't ever doubt that. Even though I'm adopted? Especially because you're adopted. That means I chose you. I wanted you so much that I went out and found you. That's pretty special. She smiled and closed her eyes. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, sweetheart. So much. As I watched her fall asleep, I thought about Marcus's words. About bloodlines and real family, about who belongs and who doesn't. Then I thought about the beach house, sitting empty most of the year while I let my family use it whenever they wanted. About all the times I'd said yes without hesitation. About how I'd never mentioned ownership because it felt petty to remind them. But here's what Marcus and the rest of them forgot. Respect isn't about blood. It's about how you treat people. And if you can't treat a 6-year-old child with basic kindness, you don't deserve the privileges that come with being family. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from my father. Your mother told me what happened. We need to talk. I typed back a simple response. No, we don't. The beach house is closed to family events indefinitely. That's all there is to say. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep in my own house, next to my daughter, listening to the waves crash outside our window. It was just the beginning, Marcus had said with his laughter. He was right about that. It was just the beginning of Emma and me having the beach house all to ourselves. And that suited us just fine. The accusation came right after we sang "Happy Birthday" to my daughter today, and my mother chose that moment to destroy my daughter's innocence. Someone has stolen my diamond bracelet, she announced loudly. It was on my dresser this morning. 20 guests turned to look at her. I'm sure it will turn up, Mom, I said calmly. Maybe you moved it somewhere safe. I didn't move it anywhere, she said sharply. It was stolen. And I know exactly who took it. My 10-year-old daughter Lily had been helping serve cake. She froze with a plate in her hands, sensing something was wrong. My mother pointed directly at her. Lily was upstairs earlier. Alone. In my bedroom. The room went completely silent. Lily's face drained of color. I was just looking for the bathroom, she whispered. The bathroom is downstairs, my mother said coldly. Everyone knows that. You had no reason to be in my bedroom, unless you were looking for something valuable to steal." Then she laughed. Not a real laugh, but a sharp, cruel sound that showed she was enjoying the moment. Lily started shaking. The plate slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. She didn't even seem to notice. My sister Emily looked uncomfortable but said nothing. My brother David stared at his phone. My father shifted in his chair, his face uncertain. "Mom, that's a serious accusation," I said quietly. "It's a serious theft," she replied. "That bracelet is worth $15,000. I want it back. Now." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't take anything. I promise. I was just looking for the bathroom and I got confused about which door." "Then you won't mind if we search your bag," my mother said. She was already moving toward Lily's small backpack by the door. "Stop," I said, not loudly but firmly enough that my mother actually paused. "Excuse me. Before you go through my daughter's belongings and traumatize her further, let's check the security footage." My mother's face changed, just slightly, but I caught it. "What security footage?" "The cameras," I said simply. "Throughout the house. Let's pull up the footage from your bedroom this afternoon and see exactly what happened." She went pale. Actually pale, like someone had drained the blood from her face. My father muttered, "What cameras?" I smiled and reached for my phone. "The security system I had installed 6 months ago. Remember, Mom? When you were worried about break-ins. That was for doors and windows," she said quickly. "Actually, 16 cameras total, including one in your bedroom pointing at the dresser. For insurance purposes. You specifically requested that." The silence in the room was profound. Emily finally spoke up. "You put cameras in Mom's bedroom?" "At her request," I said. "She insisted on it. Made me promise to position one directly at the jewelry storage area. Said she wanted to be able to prove what she owned if anything ever went missing." My mother's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. "So let's pull up today's footage," I continued, tapping on my phone. "It should only take a minute. The system saves everything to the cloud. I can pull it up right here, right now. We can all watch together." "That's not necessary," my mother said quickly. "I think it is," I replied. "You just accused my daughter of felony theft in front of 20 people. The least we can do is verify the accusation with actual evidence." My father stood up. "If there are cameras, let's see the footage. Clear this up right now." "Dad, I really don't think that's needed," Emily jumped in. "I'm sure Mom just misplaced the bracelet." "Then the footage will show that," I said. "It'll show Lily entering the room, realizing it's not the bathroom, and leaving immediately without touching anything. Right, Lily?" Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't take anything. I swear." I opened the security app on my phone. Here we go. Footage from today. Mom's bedroom. Starting at 2 o'clock when guests started arriving. My mother lurched forward. "Wait." Everyone looked at her. "I just remembered," she said, her voice shaky. "I moved the bracelet yesterday. To the safe. It's in the safe." "Then why did you say it was stolen?" David asked, finally looking up from his phone. "I forgot," my mother said. "I'm getting older. I forget things." "You forgot in the 30 seconds between accusing Lily and me offering to show the footage?" I asked. She didn't answer. "Let's check the safe," my father said. "Right now." "It's there," my mother insisted. "I remember now. I put it there yesterday for safekeeping." "Then let's verify that," I said. "And let's still watch the footage, because you still publicly accused my daughter of theft." My mother looked trapped. "I made a mistake. Can we please move on?" "No. You accused a 10-year-old child of a crime in front of her family. You laughed about it. The least you can do is admit whether you had any evidence." Emily touched my arm. "Come on." She said it was a mistake. After I mentioned the cameras, I pointed out. 30 seconds earlier she was demanding to search Lily's bag. She was absolutely certain Lily was a thief, until video evidence became available. That's convenient timing for a memory to return. My father walked past my mother toward the stairs. "I'm checking the safe." "Don't," my mother said. He stopped. "Why not?" "Because this is my house and my birthday party and I'm tired of this drama." "You created the drama," I said. "I'm just trying to resolve it with facts instead of false accusations." My father continued up the stairs. My mother didn't try to stop him again. We waited in uncomfortable silence. Lily had moved to stand behind me, her small hand gripping my shirt. I could feel her still trembling. "I'm sorry this happened, sweetie," Emily said to Lily, finally finding her voice. "Your grandmother just got confused." "She didn't look confused," Lily said softly. "She looked sure. She looked happy when everyone believed her." Emily had no response to that. My father came back down the stairs. In his hand was a diamond bracelet. "It was in the safe," he confirmed. "Right where she apparently put it yesterday." "See," my mother said. "I told you. Just a mistake." "A mistake that traumatized a child," I said. "A mistake you only remembered after being confronted with video evidence. A mistake you made absolutely zero effort to correct until you realized you'd be caught in a lie." "I wasn't lying," my mother protested. "I genuinely forgot." "Then why did you laugh?" Lily asked quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "After you said I stole it, you laughed like it was funny." My mother's face flushed. "I didn't laugh." "Yes, you did," David said. "I heard it too." "It wasn't like that," my mother stammered. I looked around the room. "Anyone here think this was just an innocent mistake?" Silence. Uncomfortable silence. "Here's what actually happened," I said. "And we can verify this with the footage if needed. Mom put her bracelet in the safe yesterday like she said. But this morning she forgot she'd done that. She checked her dresser, didn't see it, and immediately decided that someone at the party must have taken it. Instead of checking the safe, instead of looking anywhere else, instead of asking anyone quietly, she decided to publicly accuse a 10-year-old child of felony theft, in front of 20 witnesses at her own birthday party. That's not fair, Emily protested weakly. What's not fair is what she did to Lily, I said. What's not fair is that my daughter is shaking and crying because her grandmother accused her of being a thief. What's not fair is that nobody in this room defended her except me. That landed hard. David looked down. Emily bit her lip. My father's jaw tightened. I'm sorry, my mother finally said, but she said it to the room, not to Lily. Say it to her, I said. Look at your granddaughter and apologize for what you put her through. My mother looked at Lily. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Why did you think it was me? Lily asked. Why not anyone else? My mother didn't have an answer for that. But I did. Because you're 10. Because you're easy to blame. Because you can't defend yourself effectively. Because Grandma knew everyone would believe her over you. That's not true, my mother said. Isn't it? You had 20 people here today. Any one of them could have gone upstairs. But you specifically targeted the only child in the room, the one person who couldn't fight back. My father set the bracelet on the coffee table with more force than necessary. This needs to stop. Now. It stopped the moment I mentioned the cameras, I said. Before that it was escalating nicely. Mom was about to search Lily's bag. Make her empty her pockets. Really complete the humiliation. You installed cameras without telling me, my mother said, trying to redirect. I installed cameras at your request, I corrected. I have the text messages where you asked for them, where you specifically requested bedroom coverage for the jewelry, where you thanked me for finally making you feel safe. Should I pull those up too? She said nothing. Here's what happens now, I said. Lily and I are leaving. We're going home. You can continue your birthday party without us. Don't be dramatic, Emily said. I'm not being dramatic. I'm protecting my daughter from someone who just demonstrated they're willing to publicly destroy her reputation over a bracelet they misplaced. She apologized, David pointed out. After being caught. That's not the same thing. I took Lily's hand and headed for the door. Behind me I could hear my mother starting to cry, Emily rushing to comfort her, David suggesting we all calm down. My father caught up with us at the car. Wait. I turned. What? Your mother has her faults. But she's still your mother. Still Lily's grandmother. And she just accused Lily of being a thief, in front of everyone without a shred of evidence, because she was too lazy to check the safe before destroying a child's reputation. She's 75, he said. She forgets things. She remembered the moment video evidence came up. Her memory works fine when she's cornered. He sighed. What do you want me to say? Nothing. I don't want you to say anything. I wanted you to defend Lily when it happened. I wanted someone, anyone, to stand up and say, maybe we should verify this before accusing a child of a crime. Nobody did that. So now Lily knows that when things get bad, her family won't protect her. Her mother will, but her family won't. That's not fair. Neither is what happened in there. I opened the car door for Lily. Tell Mom happy birthday. We won't be at the next family gathering. Or the one after that. Or any gathering where Lily might be subjected to false accusations and public humiliation. You're overreacting, he said. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, I'm reacting exactly appropriately. Someone attacked my child. I defended her. That's what parents do. I got in the car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I could see my father standing in the driveway looking lost. Lily was quiet for several minutes. Then she asked, "Are we really not going back?" "Not for a while," I said. "Maybe not ever. We'll see." Grandma really thought I stole from her. Grandma made a terrible assumption without any evidence. Do you think she really forgot about the safe? I thought about that, about the timing, about how quickly the memory returned when cameras were mentioned, about the laugh. I think she forgot where she put the bracelet, I said carefully. And instead of admitting that, she decided to blame someone else. Someone who couldn't fight back effectively. That's mean. Yes, it is. Are you mad at Grandpa and Aunt Emily and Uncle David? I'm disappointed. They saw something wrong happening and didn't stop it. That's sometimes worse than doing the wrong thing yourself. We drove in silence for a while. Mom, Lily said quietly. Thank you for believing me. My heart broke a little. I will always believe you, baby. Always. And I will always defend you, no matter who I have to stand up against. Even family? Especially family. Because family should know better. When we got home, Lily went straight to her room. I sat in the kitchen and stared at my phone. Messages were already coming in. Emily asking me to reconsider. David saying I'd embarrassed Mom on her birthday. My mother sending a long text about how hurt she was by my behavior. Nothing from my father. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I opened the security app and pulled up the actual footage from my mother's bedroom. There was Lily, entering at 2:47. Looking around, clearly confused. Backing out immediately. Total time in the room, 11 seconds. She never went near the dresser. Never touched anything. Just a lost child looking for a bathroom. I saved the footage to my personal drive just in case. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Emily. Mom is crying. She really is sorry. Please come back. I typed a response. She knew the bracelet wasn't stolen the moment I mentioned cameras. That means she knew before that she had no evidence. She accused Lily anyway. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Emily didn't respond. Later that evening, Lily came out of her room. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. The cameras. Do they really show everything? Everything in the rooms where they're installed, yes. Did you watch what happened in Grandma's room? I did. And you did exactly what you said. You opened the door, realized it wasn't the bathroom and left immediately. You were in the room for 11 seconds. You never went near the jewelry. She nodded slowly. I'm glad there were cameras. Nobody would have believed me otherwise. He was right. And that was the saddest part of all. The next morning my father called. Your mother wants to talk to Lily. To apologize properly. No, I said. She's genuinely sorry. She's genuinely caught. There's a difference. How long are you going to punish her? I'm not punishing anyone. I'm protecting my daughter from someone who demonstrated they'll sacrifice her reputation to avoid admitting a simple mistake. When Mom is ready to take actual responsibility, not just be sorry she got caught, we can talk. Until then, Lily and I are staying away. That could be a long time. Then it's a long time. I hung up. It was just the beginning, my mother had said with that cruel laugh. She was right about that. It was just the beginning of Lily learning that I would always choose her safety over family harmony. And I was completely fine with that. The text came through while I was helping my daughter with her science project. She was 10, focused intently on building a miniature solar panel system for her school presentation. My son, 8, sat nearby reading about marine biology, occasionally showing me pictures of deep-sea creatures he found fascinating. It was a typical Saturday afternoon in our home. peaceful and productive. Stay away from the family reunion, the message read. Nobody wants you or your poor children there. It was from my older brother Marcus. Direct. Told. Exactly like him. We had grown up in a household that valued appearances above almost everything else. My parents had built their lives around maintaining a certain image in their social circle. The right cars, the right neighborhood, the right clubs. Marcus had absorbed these values completely, marrying into wealth and spending his weekends at country clubs and charity galas that were more about being seen than about actual charity. I had taken a different path. After college, I started small, buying a struggling duplex and learning property management through trial and error. My parents had called it beneath me. Marcus had laughed openly at family dinners, asking when I was going to get a real career, instead of being a landlord. But I had seen something they hadn't. Real estate, managed correctly with a focus on actual value rather than flash, could build substantial wealth quietly. While Marcus was financing luxury cars and designer clothes to maintain appearances, I was reinvesting profits, expanding slowly and learning the business from the ground up. I set my phone down carefully, not wanting to disturb the peaceful afternoon. My daughter looked up briefly, noticed my expression, then returned to her work. She had learned not to ask about my family anymore. The questions had stopped around her 7th birthday, when I explained why grandparents and uncles never visited. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Marcus. I'm serious. The family has discussed it. Your lifestyle is an embarrassment. Showing up with kids in discount store clothes would ruin the photos. Mom agrees. Dad agrees. Everyone agrees. I read it twice. The reunion was scheduled for next weekend at the Grandview Resort, about 40 miles from our suburban home. Marcus had sent a group message 3 months ago announcing the dates. I hadn't responded then, simply noting it in my calendar. My son looked over. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, I said, ruffling his hair. Keep reading. He smiled and returned to his book about octopuses. I walked to my home office, a small converted bedroom where I handled my business affairs. The desk was neat and organized, just a laptop and a few folders. I opened my email and scrolled through recent messages from my property management company, the Grandview Resort. I had purchased it 6 years ago through an LLC, part of a broader investment strategy that had proven remarkably successful. The property had been struggling, mismanaged by the previous owners who couldn't adapt to changing hospitality trends. I had seen potential where others saw risk. The purchase required careful negotiation. The resort sat on prime land but had outdated facilities and a reputation for poor service. I spent months analyzing the market, understanding what travelers actually wanted versus what the previous owners assumed they wanted. The key insight was simple. People valued genuine comfort and excellent service over superficial luxury. I invested in staff training, upgraded the technology infrastructure, renovated rooms with quality materials rather than expensive finishes, and rebuilt the restaurant around local ingredients and authentic cuisine. Within 3 years, the resort was profitable. Within 5, it was one of the highest-rated properties in the region. Nobody in my family knew. They had stopped asking about my work years ago, back when I was building my first businesses. My father had called my entrepreneurial efforts playing around. My mother had suggested I get a real job with benefits. Marcus had been the loudest critic, mocking every venture and every calculated risk. The irony was that Marcus worked in middle management at a company where he complained constantly about office politics and limited advancement opportunities. He made decent money, but most of it went toward maintaining the lifestyle he believed necessary for his status. Meanwhile, I had quietly built a portfolio that generated substantial passive income while giving me time to be present for my children. So I stopped sharing. Stopped attending family dinners where my efforts were dismissed. Stopped trying to explain that the long hours and careful planning were building something substantial. I called the resort manager, a competent woman named Patricia who had been with the property for 4 years. Patricia, I need you to handle something for me, I said calmly. There's a family reunion booked for next weekend under the name Marcus Whitmore. I need that reservation cancelled and access restricted. There was a brief pause. Cancelled completely? Yes. Refund the deposit minus the cancellation fee per our standard policy. Then block any future bookings from that name or associated family members. Understood. I'll process this immediately. Thank you. I hung up and returned to the living room. My daughter had successfully connected her solar panel to a small LED light. She beamed with pride as it flickered to life. "It works," she exclaimed. "I knew it would," I said. "You're brilliant." My phone rang 20 minutes later. "Marcus." I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. "What the hell did you do?" His voice was frantic, angry. "The resort just called and canceled our reservation. They said it came from the owner." "Do you know the owner? Did you complain about us?" "Call me back immediately." I deleted the message. Another call came 10 minutes later. Then another. Text messages started flooding in, from my mother, my father, Marcus again, my Aunt Linda. All confused, angry, demanding explanations. I sent a single text to Marcus. "I received your message about the reunion. I've handled it accordingly." He called within seconds. I answered. "What did you do?" he demanded. "I closed access to the venue," I said simply. "You can't just close access to a resort. Who do you think you are?" "The owner." Silence. Long, heavy silence. "You're lying," he finally said. "I'm not. The Grandview Resort has been mine for 6 years. I purchased it through Highland Properties LLC. Patricia can verify this, or you can check the property records at the county office. They're public." More silence. "You own a resort?" His voice had changed, uncertain now. "I own several properties. The resort was a good investment. It's done well." "Several properties?" "Yes. The hotel chain in the downtown district. The conference center on State Street. The vacation rental properties near the lake. The small shopping plaza on Jefferson Avenue." Should I continue? I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. "How is that possible?" he asked, his voice smaller now. "You drive a 10-year-old sedan. Your kids wear clothes from regular stores. You live in a normal suburban house." "Exactly," I said. "I drive a reliable car that's paid off. My kids wear durable, comfortable clothes. I live in a house that's the right size for our family and has excellent schools nearby. I don't spend money proving to others that I have money. That's the difference between us, Marcus. You've spent the last 15 years performing wealth. I've spent it building it. But the reunions, the holidays, you always seemed so what? Poor, unsuccessful. That's what you wanted to see. It confirmed your narrative that you had made better choices, that your way was the right way. It never occurred to any of you that I was successful on my own terms. Dad always said you were wasting your potential." Dad measured potential by how impressive someone's job title sounds at cocktail parties. I measured it by whether I was building something sustainable and whether I had time for my kids. We had different definitions. The silence stretched between us. I could hear voices in the background on his end, probably his wife asking what was happening. "The family is going to want to know about this," he finally said. "That's up to you what you tell them. But understand something clearly, Marcus. I'm not interested in suddenly being welcomed into the fold now that you know I'm wealthy. I'm not interested in being the success story you parade around to your friends. I made my choices deliberately and I'm happy with them. What I'm not happy with is my children being insulted." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" he asked. "You stopped asking about my work 8 years ago. You called my first business venture a joke. My second one a waste of time. After a while, I realized you weren't interested in what I was actually building. You were interested in maintaining a narrative where I was failing and you were succeeding. That's not fair. You texted me this morning to tell me my children weren't welcome because we're poor. Those were your exact words. My poor children. I didn't know. You didn't ask. None of you asked. You saw that I lived modestly, drove a practical car, bought my kids normal clothes, and assumed I was struggling. It never occurred to you that I simply don't value the same status symbols you do." My daughter appeared in the doorway, holding her science project carefully. "Dad, can you help me write the explanation cards?" "I'll be right there," I told her. Into the phone I said, "I need to go. My daughter needs help with her project." "Wait," Marcus said quickly. "Can we talk about this? The reunion is important. Mom and Dad wanted everyone together. You should have thought about that before excluding my children. I made a mistake. I'm sorry." "Are you sorry you said it, or sorry that you were wrong about my financial situation?" He didn't answer. "That's what I thought," I said. "Goodbye, Marcus." I ended the call and turned off my phone. The next morning I received an email from my mother. Subject line: please reconsider. The message was long and apologetic, explaining that Marcus had made a terrible mistake, that the family didn't really feel that way, that of course my children were welcome, that they all wanted me there. I read it carefully, then drafted a response. Mom, I appreciate you reaching out. However, this isn't just about the reunion. For 8 years, you and Dad have dismissed my work, my choices, and my values. You've suggested I was failing because I didn't display wealth the way you expected. You've made my children feel unwelcome at family events because we don't dress in designer clothes or drive luxury cars. This pattern has been consistent and hurtful. The reunion comment was simply the final, clear example of a long-standing problem. I need you to understand that I've been successful by my own definition. I built businesses that employ people, provide services, and generate sustainable income. I've done this while prioritizing time with my kids and maintaining the values I believe in. I don't need your approval anymore, but I do need respect. Until that changes, I think it's better if we maintain some distance. I sent it and felt a weight lift. My father called that afternoon. I answered. Your mother is very upset, he said. I understand. She says you own the resort. I do. And other properties? Yes. Why didn't you tell us? Would it have mattered if you didn't believe I had value regardless of my financial status? He was quiet for a moment. That's a fair question. I love you and Mom, I said. But I can't keep subjecting my children to an environment where they're judged for not having expensive things. They're good kids, smart, kind, curious. They deserve better than being called poor as an insult. Marcus was out of line. Marcus was clear. He said the family discussed it. That suggests this wasn't just his opinion. Another pause. We may have had conversations about appearances. About wanting things to look nice for the photos. There it is, I said quietly. I think we owe you an apology. A real one. I think you do too. But apologies need to come with changed behavior. I'm not interested in one conversation where everyone says sorry and then returns to the same patterns. That's fair, he said. Can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? With your life, your work, your choices? The question surprised me. Yes. Very happy. My kids are thriving. My businesses are stable. I have time for the things that matter to me. I'm exactly where I want to be. Then I think we've been looking at this all wrong, he admitted. We measured your success by our standards instead of yours. That's a good realization, I said. Could we try again? Maybe not the reunion, but something smaller. Just you and your kids, maybe your mom and me. Somewhere neutral. I considered it. Maybe. Let me think about it. That's all I can ask. We talked for a few more minutes, carefully, both of us navigating new territory. When we hung up, I felt cautiously optimistic. That evening, I took my kids to their favorite pizza place. We sat in a corner booth and they told me about their days, their projects, their friends. My daughter explained her science teacher's reaction to the solar panel project. My son described a documentary about deep-sea exploration he wanted to watch. They were happy, secure, unaware of the family drama that had unfolded. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Reservation canceled as requested. Family member attempted to book under a different name. Blocked per your instructions. All set. I texted back. Thank you. Well handled. My son looked up from his pizza. Dad, can we go hiking this weekend? Absolutely, I said. Where do you want to go? The trail with the waterfall. The one we went to last summer. Perfect. We'll pack sandwiches and make a day of it. My daughter smiled. Can I bring my camera? Of course. They returned to their food, chatting about the hike, what they might see, whether we'd spot any wildlife. I watched them, these two incredible kids who had taught me what actually mattered. They didn't need a family reunion with people who judged them. They needed stability, love, and parents who showed up for them consistently. My phone buzzed again. Marcus, can we please talk? I really messed up. I typed back. Not right now. I'm with my kids. His response came quickly. I understand. When you're ready. I set the phone aside and focused on my children. The rest could wait. Some things were more important than family drama. More important than proving points or demanding apologies. Sometimes the best response was simply living well, protecting the people who mattered most, and refusing to compromise on the values that defined who you were. My daughter reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Thanks for pizza night, Dad." "Anytime," I said, squeezing back. And I meant it. The garden venue looked perfect. White chairs were arranged in neat rows, floral arrangements cascading from every available surface, and a string quartet played softly near the ceremony arch. My sister's wedding had turned out exactly as she'd envisioned when she'd come to me 9 months ago, desperate and overwhelmed. "I don't know what to do," Jessica had said that day in my kitchen, her laptop open to a spreadsheet of wedding costs. "Brian's parents can only contribute $10,000 and Mom and Dad have nothing saved. The venue alone is $25,000. I'm going to have to cancel everything and just do a courthouse ceremony." She had been near tears. Jessica had always dreamed of a real wedding, the kind she'd planned in notebooks since we were teenagers. I watched her face crumble as she realized that dream wasn't financially possible. "What if I helped?" I had offered quietly. "You?" She looked surprised. "I mean, that's sweet, but you have the kids and your job. I can't ask you to spend your savings on my wedding." "You didn't ask. I'm offering. Let me look at your numbers." I reviewed her budget, suggested some adjustments, and ultimately agreed to cover the major expenses: venue, catering, photography, flowers. The total came to $62,000. I wrote the checks without hesitation, made the deposits and signed the contracts, all in my name. "Are you sure?" Jessica asked, grateful but uncertain. "This is so much money." "I'm sure. Just promise me one thing. Don't tell Mom and Dad. They'll make it into a whole thing and I'd rather just help you have your day without drama." She agreed, hugging me tightly. "Thank you. I'll pay you back, I promise." "Just be happy," I said. "That's all the payment I need." Now, standing in that beautiful garden 9 months later, watching guests arrive and admire the expensive details, I felt a quiet satisfaction. My sister looked radiant in her dress. The weather had cooperated perfectly. Everything was going according to plan. My 2 children sat beside me. My daughter, Sarah, 9 years old, in a light blue dress she'd picked out herself, and my son, David, 7, in a little suit that made him look absurdly grown up. They'd been excited about the wedding for weeks, asking questions about the ceremony, wondering if they could try the fancy food. My mother arrived with my father, both dressed formally. She surveyed the venue with an approving expression, nodding at the flowers, the chairs, the elegant setup. She didn't acknowledge me beyond a brief nod. Our relationship had been strained for years, ever since I chose a different career path than she'd approved of. She wanted me to follow her into nursing. Instead, I studied software engineering, worked my way up through various tech companies, and eventually started consulting independently. The money was excellent, but my mother never respected it. Technology work wasn't real in her mind, not like medicine, law, or the traditional professions she valued. "You play with computers all day," she'd said dismissively more than once. "It's not a serious career." The fact that my consulting brought in more money than her nursing salary ever had seemed irrelevant to her. She decided I was unsuccessful, and no evidence would convince her otherwise. I drove a practical car, lived in a modest house, and dressed my children in normal department store clothes. In her eyes, these were signs of failure rather than intentional choices. The ceremony was beautiful. Jessica cried during her vows. Brian looked genuinely moved. The string quartet played precisely on cue. Everything I'd paid for came together exactly as planned. Afterward, guests moved to the reception area, another section of the garden transformed into an elegant dining space. Round tables with white linens, centerpieces of roses and peonies, and soft lighting as the sun began to set. The catering staff, professionals I had personally vetted, began serving appetizers. My children were well behaved, sitting at our assigned table and watching everything with wide eyes. David whispered questions about the flowers. Sarah pointed out details in the decorations she found pretty. They were good kids, thoughtful and curious, a little shy in large social gatherings but perfectly polite. My mother stopped by our table, champagne glass in hand. Several other relatives stood nearby, chatting in small groups. She looked around the venue again, then at my children, then at me. "These kids are such a burden at this beautiful wedding," she announced, her voice carrying to the surrounding tables. I told Jessica she should have made it adults only. The words landed like a physical blow. I watched my children's faces change. Sarah's smile disappeared. David's shoulders hunched. They both looked down at their laps, suddenly small and hurt. Around us, conversations faltered. Relatives turned to look. I could see the discomfort on their faces, the second-hand embarrassment at such a cruel public statement. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger exactly. More like absolute clarity. I smiled politely at my mother and pulled out my phone. The wedding planner's number was easy to find. I'd been calling her regularly for 9 months. "Hi, Margaret," I said when she answered. "This is going to sound strange, but I need you to cancel everything. Stop all services immediately." "I'm sorry, what?" Margaret's confusion was evident. "Cancel what?" "The wedding. All of it. Catering, music, photography. Everything stops now." There was a pause. "Miss Patterson, I need to clarify. You're the primary contact on all the contracts. You have the authority to do this. But are you certain? The reception has just started." "I'm certain. Please notify all vendors immediately." "Understood. I'll begin the process now." I hung up and looked at my mother. She was staring at me with an expression of confused annoyance. "What was that about?" she demanded. Jessica appeared at our table, her face bright with happiness. "Isn't everything gorgeous? I can't believe how perfect it all turned out." "It is beautiful," I agreed. "But I'm afraid there's been a change of plans." "What kind of change?" Jessica's smile faltered. I pulled up my phone and opened the folder where I'd saved all the receipts, all the payment confirmations. I'd kept meticulous records. Every deposit, every final payment, every contract signed. "This kind," I said, turning the screen so both Jessica and my mother could see. "The venue contract. $65,000 total paid. Signed by me. Dated 9 months ago." Jessica's face went pale. "What are you showing me?" "The receipts for your wedding. All of them. I paid for everything. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the photographer, the quartet, the entire event. Every single expense went on my credit card and was paid in full." My mother grabbed the phone, scrolling through the documents. Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to something close to shock. "This can't be right," she said. "You don't have this kind of money." "I do actually. My consulting firm has been quite successful. But that's beside the point now." Margaret, the wedding planner, approached our table with quick, professional steps. "Miss Patterson, I've contacted the vendors. The caterers are stopping food service. The photographer is packing up his equipment. The quartet will finish their current piece and then leave. The bar service is closing now." Jessica stood abruptly. What? What's happening?" "I'm canceling the wedding reception," I said calmly. "Not the marriage itself. That's legal and done. But the party, the celebration, all the services I paid for, those are ending." "You can't do that." Jessica's voice rose. Nearby guests were definitely watching now. "I can actually. My name is on every contract. Margaret can confirm." Margaret nodded uncomfortably. "That's correct. Ms. Patterson is the client of record for all services." My mother's face turned red. "This is ridiculous. You can't ruin your sister's wedding over nothing." "Over nothing?" I looked at my children, still sitting quietly, their earlier joy completely extinguished. "You publicly called my children a burden. You humiliated them in front of everyone here, at a wedding they were excited to attend and at a wedding I paid for entirely." "I didn't mean it like that," my mother backtracked quickly. "How did you mean it, then? Explain to me the kind interpretation of telling everyone my children are burdens at this beautiful wedding." She couldn't. Around us, relatives were whispering, putting pieces together. The bartender was covering bottles. Catering staff were quietly removing serving trays. "Wait," my father interjected, finally speaking. "You paid for all of this? The whole wedding?" "Yes. Jessica came to me 9 months ago because you and Mom had no savings to help her, and Brian's family could only contribute $10,000. She was going to cancel her dream wedding, so I covered the rest." Jessica was crying now, but not the happy tears from the ceremony. "You told me not to tell them." "I did. Because I knew it would become about me and Mom instead of about you. I wanted you to have your day without family drama. But apparently that wasn't possible." The photographer approached, his camera bag already packed. "Miss Patterson, I'm heading out. Per your instructions." "Thank you," I said. A guest called out, confused, Is the wedding over? Are we supposed to leave? I stood up, addressing the gathering crowd. I apologize for the disruption. Due to family circumstances, the reception is ending early. Thank you all for coming to witness the ceremony. A murmur of confused conversation spread through the garden. Guests began gathering their things, unsure what was happening but clearly understanding something had gone very wrong. My mother grabbed my arm. You're destroying your sister's wedding out of spite. No, I said quietly, removing her hand. I'm protecting my children from a grandmother who sees them as burdens. Jessica still got her ceremony, her legal marriage, her beautiful venue for the pictures. What she's not getting is a celebration hosted by someone whose children were just publicly humiliated. Jessica sank into a chair. I didn't know you paid for everything. Mom said she and Dad had taken care of it. They lied to you, I said simply. Did you never wonder who was making all those vendor payments? I thought they were handling it. They said not to worry about the finances. My father looked stricken. We were going to tell her eventually. When? I asked. After the wedding? After you'd taken credit for something I did. He didn't answer. My mother's shock was wearing off, replaced by anger. You make good money playing with computers and suddenly you think you're better than everyone? You think you can control us with your money? I don't think I'm better than anyone. But I do think my children deserve respect. And I think actions have consequences. You wanted to publicly humiliate them at an event I funded. Now you're experiencing the consequences of that choice. Margaret touched my arm gently. All vendors have been notified and are departing. I'll send you a final accounting of any cancellation fees by tomorrow. Thank you, Margaret. You've been wonderful to work with. She left and I turned to my children. Sarah, David, let's go home. They stood immediately, relief visible on their faces. They'd been sitting through the entire confrontation with impressive composure, but I could see the stress in their posture. As we walked toward the parking lot, I heard Jessica crying harder, my mother's voice raised in anger, my father trying to calm everyone down. Guests were streaming out, clearly uncomfortable and confused. My phone buzzed. A text from my uncle. What just happened? Everyone's leaving. I didn't respond. In the car, Sarah spoke first. Are you okay, Mom? I'm fine, I said, turning to look at both of them. Are you two okay? David nodded slowly. Grandma was mean. Yes, she was. And that's not acceptable. I don't want you to ever think you're burdens. You're the best part of my life. Sarah leaned forward from the back seat. Did you really pay for Aunt Jessica's whole wedding? I did. That's a lot of money. It is. And I was happy to do it for your aunt, but not at the cost of you two being disrespected. We drove home in relative quiet. My phone continued buzzing with messages. Jessica, my father, various relatives. I ignored them all. At home, I made grilled cheese sandwiches and we watched a movie together, my children curled up on either side of me on the couch. By the time they went to bed, they seemed mostly recovered from the earlier hurt. I stayed up, finally reading through the messages. Jessica's were apologetic, explaining she genuinely hadn't known, that she was grateful but devastated. My father's were confused, asking if we could talk. My mother's were defensive and angry. I responded only to Jessica. I'm sorry your day ended badly. But I'm not sorry for protecting my kids. When you're ready to talk, I'm here. The next morning, Margaret sent the final accounting. Most services had already been delivered or prepared, so the actual financial loss from the cancellation was minimal. The biggest impact was social. The sudden ending, the confused guests, the family drama made public. My phone rang. My father. I need you to understand something, he said without preamble. Your mother was wrong to say what she said. But destroying Jessica's wedding wasn't the answer. Jessica's wedding happened. She's married. She had her ceremony, her venue, her flowers, her photos from before the reception. What she didn't get was a party at my expense after my children were insulted. It was one comment. One public comment, Dad. At an event I paid for entirely. An event you and Mom took credit for while contributing nothing. He was quiet for a moment. We thought it would be easier if Jessica didn't know you'd paid. She was already stressed. Easier for whom? You told her you'd handled it. You let her think you were providing this wedding. That's not protecting her from stress. That's taking credit for my generosity. Maybe that's true, he admitted. Your mother and I need to think about a lot of things. About how we've treated you and your work. About what we said to your kids. Yes, you do. Can we talk in person? All of us. Eventually. But not right now. Right now, I need some distance. After hanging up, I sat with my coffee, looking out at my backyard where my children would soon be playing. The practical car in the driveway. The modest house that was exactly the right size. The life I had built deliberately on my own terms. My phone showed a new message. Jessica, can we meet for coffee? Just us. I typed back, yes. Let me know when. The wedding had ended badly. Relationships were strained. But my children were safe and they knew without question that I would always protect them. Everything else could be figured out later.